Welcome to the Young Widow Podcast, and thank you for joining today for Episode 8, Traversing Mother's Day as a Widow. I'm Britany, your host, and I'm happy you could join us today. It's a rainy day here. Rainy days always make me feel a little bit gloomy, but let's go ahead and get started. There's actually a lot of things that I want to cover today. This week, I want to talk about traversing Mother's Day as a widow and the emotions around that and how that may feel. I also have a diverse following between widowers and then grievers that aren't mothers that are also widows. So I want to do a small segmentation on that for them as well, because it's really important for me in the podcasting to be able to have a little bit of resonation with everybody that's following me. So let's go ahead and get started. We have quite a bit to cover today. Traversing Mother's Day as a widow that has children can cause significant emotions, and maybe you didn't think that they would be as heavy as they are, or maybe you feel like they are really heavy. I know for me in my first year and second year, they were really heavy. The first year that I lost my husband, Mother's Day hit me hard, and I still had my mom. I am a mom. My daughter's alive and well and healthy and lives with me, but Mother's Day hit me hard because I was missing something. I was missing my husband. My husband was the person who had a child with me. My husband was a person that made me a mother. He was a person that celebrated me every Mother's Day with my daughter. So the first year I traversed Mother's Day, I realized he wouldn't be here to celebrate it. And then he wouldn't be here to celebrate it for years to come. And that was a significant emotional impact. And I dealt with a lot of breakdowns weeks leading up to Mother's Day and then even after Mother's Day. Some of the details around that and why. It wasn't about me needing to be celebrated. I've never really been a person that felt like I needed to be celebrated by people. But this was different because it was now a holiday I was going to spend alone. It was a holiday where my husband naturally celebrated me with my daughter. And now I was going to do that alone. And that's an interesting dynamic to work through as a widower that is a mom, right? You are thankful to be their mother. You're happy to be their mother. And you are thankful that they are alive and well and healthy. But the person who made you a mother is gone. And then in that, what you also have to realize is that your child is grieving. While you are a mother and you are here and your child can still celebrate you, the person that paired with them in that is the person that's gone. My husband used to always take my daughter shopping. My husband used to help her pick out flowers or a card or decide what to get me for Mother's Day, but he wasn't here anymore to take her shopping. She couldn't drive. She was too young. If she wanted to do something for me and she wanted it to be a surprise, how was she going to do that now because my husband wasn't here for her? That was actually really emotional for me to go through and to think about it from her perspective. As a mom, we always worry about our children, right? So it's only natural on Mother's Day that I was looking at it from my child's perspective as well. And I know what you're thinking. You can call people to help. Your friends can help. Your other family can help. They can take your daughter shopping and do those things. When you think about it, like that first year, it was really awkward for me. I didn't pick up the phone and call somebody to take her shopping. I didn't want to do that. How do you have that conversation? Oh, hey, so if you remember, my husband died, but my daughter wants to go shopping. So could you take her to get me something for Mother's Day? Like, it just sounds selfish in its thought. For me, it did anyways the first year. And so it wasn't a path that I wanted to go down. And so we just figured it out. I also remember that on top of it being hard on her because her dad wasn't here to celebrate it with her and to help her celebrate me, she saw how sad I was. I was very emotional. I'm very open with my grief. I think it's important to be open with our grief and our children. And so I was very emotional and I felt like my daughter tried to compensate. She's so good-hearted and such good-natured and she doesn't want anybody to be upset or to feel sad. And I felt like she tried to fill in. She tried to go over the top for what an 11-year-old could do by herself because she knew how sad I was and she just wanted to make me happy on Mother's Day. And believe it or not, that actually broke my heart too. The fact that she saw me so sad but wanted me to be happy because her dad wasn't here. That's a little bit about how my first Mother's Day went, but I want to talk about how it's going now and what kind of advice do I have. First, you are still a mom with or without your spouse. The day is about celebrating moms and our loving nature. It took me 3 years into my grief to truly embrace this and say, I can still celebrate being a mom without my husband here. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not sad, and that doesn't mean that my emotions aren't even going to run high this week at year 5. But it took me 3 years to realize I can still be happy in my sadness with my loss. My second piece of advice is that you are still a mom. Your children are watching you if you have them with you. I would never condone hiding grief or sadness from your child. They need to see it, and they need to see it's okay to express emotion. But you can and should reinforce with them that while you are sad, you are still happy to be here with them and happy to be their mom, because that's what it's about. It's about celebrating Mother's Day, right? And while your spouse is gone, there is one gift that your spouse gave you, and that gift is being a mother. And that gift is them living on through your child. And I have very strong beliefs around, I think that you should express that and explain to your child that while you may be sad today and you may be sad for missing your spouse, you are still happy to be their mom. And today is about celebrating that. And they are a part of that story. My third recommendation is get over the awkwardness. The first year I didn't want to call people to help. You should ask people to help you. If your kiddo wants to go get flowers or go shopping and they want it to be a surprise, find someone to take them. It's not just about you on Mother's Day. It's also about your child working through their loss, right? And in this moment, for their healing and grieving, they want to make you happy on Mother's Day because your spouse is gone and they feel like they're the last person left there to do it. So figure out how to help them do that. That's what we do as mothers, right? We help our children. So get over the awkwardness, ask somebody to help. And if you still don't want to ask somebody to help, why does everything have to be a surprise? Go Mother's Day shopping with your child. Help them pick out the flowers that you love. Your spouse doesn't have to be here to do that. You can still take your child to do those things. I know that may not have seemed like I gave specific and direct advice for what you should do as a widowed mom on Mother's Day, but I'm going to recap a little bit of it in the end. And overall, the important thing here is that you need to recognize your emotions, recognize your child's emotions, and then you both together need to find moments of happiness in the day because you are still a mother and you are still here with your children. Now I want to switch gears slightly and I want to talk about Mother's Day as a widower. I'm not a widower, obviously, but I do have perspective from widowers that I've talked to within my coaching, but also from traversing Father's Day. So if you really think about it, I'm actually just the opposite of you. And if you're a widower listening to this, what you're going to go through on Mother's Day, I'm going to go through in a month on Father's Day. And so just a little perspective from somebody that's been through this for 5 years with their child. You're likely overwhelmed. The mother of your child is gone. The person you want to celebrate and want to love on this day isn't here. And my heart breaks for you in that. I know what it's like to not only deal with your emotions, but then watch your child deal with the emotions of something missing on a parental holiday. The person you're supposed to celebrate has died. How do you do that with your child? Do you still celebrate them? Do you cry? How do you talk to your children about it? This could honestly be a whole podcast in itself, but I just want to touch on two main things really quickly. From this perspective, as a widow that goes through Father's Day, there is nothing you should be doing or feeling this Mother's Day, and there is no right or wrong in your emotions. You need to create an environment that allows you and your children to process any emotion that comes up, whatever it may be, and it could be highly emotional. You could be feeling sad, anxious, nervous, and then I want you to remember this. Your child's probably feeling the same thing if they're in year 1, year 2, and then in year 3 or more, they could still be feeling significant amounts of sadness. So you are both probably feeling different things at different levels, but for the same person because you lost the same person. So this is my advice. They should see you cry. They should see you process your emotions, and they should see you be expressive. But then they should also see you still celebrate your wife and their mom because it is Mother's Day and they did have a mom. And we should help our children remember the parents that they lost. So what do? You don't feel obligated about anything, but find something small. Maybe your wife liked flowers. Take them to go get flowers. Maybe your wife enjoyed brunch. Take them to brunch. That doesn't mean it's not going to be emotional. You're not going to cry in the process. Hell, you could be inside of a flower shop bawling your eyes out, and you have every right to because it's Mother's Day and the mother of your children is gone. But they need to see that. They need to see you attempt to be happy and attempt to celebrate their mom and your wife while also processing the emotions of the grief. And then I also want to say, schedule some time for yourself on Mother's Day if you're a widower and you lost your wife and you have children. Schedule some time to feel sad that your wife isn't here and you can't celebrate her. Schedule some time to be alone in that. And I say schedule it because if you schedule it, it gives you an amount of time that allows you to spend with yourself and allows you to sit in your emotions fully and be aware of them, because this is part of your healing process. Not only is your child not going to have a mother every day for the rest of their life when they celebrate Mother's Day, you're also not going to have your spouse, and you need to process that as well. A third segmentation I want to talk about, which is slightly different, but I'm very cognizant of the followers and the people that follow me and the type of grief they're going through. I actually keep a list of it because I want to make sure to try and help everybody resonate and validate. I want to talk about the widows that don't have children that are feeling sad on Mother's Day or when it comes up. If you are a widow and you don't have children, it's okay for Mother's Day to be hard for you. And it's okay for Mother's Day to be hard for you because maybe you planned to have children with your spouse and your husband died. Maybe all you wanted in the world was to be a mother, and then your husband died. And so while you're not a mother and it's Mother's Day, you are emotional about the loss of what could have been, the loss of the plans, the loss of what you wanted with a person that is gone. And so this is what I want to say to you. Don't feel wrong about it. Don't feel like you shouldn't be sad on Mother's Day because you don't have children, but you wanted them. Allow yourself to feel that. And if you feel like people are judging you or people can't understand why you're upset on Mother's Day, let them. Let them be negative. Let them not understand your grief, because guess what, babe? It's your grief, not theirs. They don't need to understand it. But if you have those emotions and it's something that is resonating with you and you feel like you are upset on Mother's Day and you are justified to it, I'm here to tell you, you're justified to it because it is the way that you feel. It is completely normal for widows that don't have children to be upset on Mother's Day because they wanted to have a child with somebody that they lost. And then as I'm sitting here podcasting, I'm thinking there's going to be one more segmentation. Welcome to my podcast. This is kind of how I am. I need to throw this topic in there. If you lost your spouse, I want you to remember this as we get into Mother's Day this weekend. They were someone's child. It doesn't matter what your relationship is with your mother-in-law. They were somebody's child. That means that there's a mother out there, if she's still alive, that is grieving the loss of her child on Mother's Day. The person that has made her a mother has died. The person that would celebrate her as an adult child is now gone. I just want you to think about that for a minute. I really didn't think about that the first year in my grief. As I got into the second and the third year, I did, and then I had felt terrible about it. My husband's mom is a mom, and on Mother's Day, she's celebrating, but her son is dead. So do me a favor, and do yourself a favor, and do her a favor. No matter whatever terms you're on, validate her feelings. Send her a card, send her a message, give her a phone call, and tell her Happy Mother's Day, because guess what? Even when your child dies, you're still a mother. And that needs to be recognized. And if you validate that for her in your grief, I am here to tell you, it's going to heal you a little bit. It could heal you 1%, it could heal you 5%, but it is going to make a difference in how you feel at the end of the day, in how you dealt with your grief and how you went through your grief journey. I know that that seems like a lot really short, right? We covered 4 different topics instead of 3. We covered widows with children on Mother's Day that lost their husband as their spouse. We covered widowers and how they traversed Mother's Day briefly with children when they lost their wife. And then we dove in slightly to widows that didn't have children that wanted to be a mom that are grieving the loss of not being a mom. And then we also slightly touched on the in-laws, which is actually really important. Overall, I'm not going to recap all of the different angles in this, but I do want to leave this note with you in it. It's not going to be perfect. No matter how you plan it, it's not going to be perfect. I am 5 years into it, and I am still already feeling my emotions come about for Mother's Day this weekend, and I've accepted that it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to cry. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to smile, and then I'm probably going to cry some more. And let yourself cry, because you know what? Mother's Day is going to come again in another 365 days, and you're going to deal with it next year and the next year. So the quicker that you realize that it's not going to be perfect and you cannot fully control your emotions, the easier it's going to be to stomach the idea of getting through it for the next decade. Every person that is missing your spouse today is going to experience Mother's Day differently. Widows, widowers, mothers, fathers, and children. You all are going to have a different experience in Mother's Day and the emotions that you're feeling and the different levels of those emotions, but you have one thing in common. you all lost the same person. Thank you for joining for episode 8, Traversing Mother's Day as a Widow. I'm actually going to jump back on later this week because I'm slightly behind in podcasts. If you follow me, you know that, and I apologize. So I'm going to see you later this week, and I hope that you have the best couple of days that you can until we chat again, and I'll see you around.